Menopause, wow, what a fun time of life it is, but not for everyone. In some countries, menopause is one of those transitional times in a woman that is often celebrated. And when you look back over different cultures, there's a couple of milestones in a woman's life. One's when she starts to have periods and menstruate, and another is babies, and another, the third significant event that happens to women is menopause. Unfortunately, though, for women in Western jungles, they're not actually enjoying this time of their life, and I use these slides because it's a good way to, this is how they feel. They feel like they're on a bit of a voyage and they're out of control, a bit like this guy hanging with their butt in the water, not too sure if they've got control or not over their life. And I think says it all for a lot of them. Navigation through it can be really tricky because what might work for one woman won't necessarily work for another, and it is a time where ladies can lose a lot of confidence, suffer with terrible symptoms, and really lose a lot of self-esteem, and their relationship will also suffer. A couple came up to me, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. I gave a presentation, and he came over, and his wife, they looked in their 50s, and he said, "I don't know why you'd go through this twice." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "I don't understand why men, once they've been through their wife with this once, would go and have an affair or get a younger version and go through it twice." And this poor guy looked like he'd been through the mill, which is obviously nothing compared to what his wife was going through, but he made a very good point. It's actually a rocky road for both the man and the woman often, because men really don't know how to help their partner who's going through it. But it can be okay, and I do want to paint it up not to be something to be feared, and it's a bit like breast cancer. Yeah, it can be a gruesome time, but not every woman has to have breast cancer, and not every woman has to have a rough time through menopause. People who really look after themselves, pay attention to good nutrition, who make sure that the body's at a really good weight is quite critical going into menopause, and who have really good positive activities going on in their life seem to sail through this time in their life a lot better than those who don't. And they can reconnect with their loved ones. Often this is a time when the kids have left. If they've had children, they've left the home, or they're at uni, so they find that they have got a lot more time on their hands. The empty nest syndrome is quite sad for a lot of women, though, because a lot of ladies do build up their whole existence based around their children. So making the lunch, dropping them to school, cleaning the house, cleaning the room, helping them with the homework, cooking dinner, and all those maternal roles that we play. And then when the child does actually wean themselves off the need of our maternal requirements, then it can be quite a shock, because suddenly you find that you've got no purpose. So this is a time where people can reconnect with their partner, and some people find they don't have a lot in common, and others find that it's beautiful all over again. Michelle, actually, sorry, this does link through to a YouTube clip. I could play it here, but Michelle is interesting. She came and saw me when she was maybe 47, 48. She looks nothing like that now. That was probably 2 years ago or so. She is now lean. She's such a hot woman. She's got this amazing personality, and she's really harnessed menopause. For her, it was a time to clean up your life, be the healthiest you can ever be, and that's exactly what Michelle's done. And I actually should get some after clippage of her, because she's quite inspiring what she's done and how she's attacked it. This is a book I've got for women who are going through menopause, and I try and tackle all the little things that go with it. So the low sex drive, the flushes, should you go natural, should you go bioidentical hormones, or should you go synthetic hormones, or should you just do none of it? So I try and give little snippets of all the different options through menopause in that book. So 60% of Australian women actually suffer with symptoms of menopause while they're going through it. And I want to look at why that happens, because it's quite a large figure. If you jump on a plane and go to Vanuatu, you'll find that there it is a celebration and a real milestone for women to make menopause, and they don't have any symptoms. And it definitely is about lifestyle. So why are we experiencing lots of different symptoms? And my big thing, is you've already heard me allude to, is the diet. How we eat, what we eat, when we eat, what's going on in our body when we're eating, why we're gaining weight. Really critical things that women need to understand, that diet and what they're eating is very much in their control. Using the the facade or the banner to hide behind, saying, organic's too expensive, just doesn't wash it with me anymore. If you forfeit a coffee a day, that can go towards better produce, i.e. organic. So we really have to inspire them and educate them why eating extraordinarily well during this time in your life and forevermore is so important. Lifestyle. And a lot of ladies aren't engaging in regular activity, and statistically it's very low, under 20% by the time women hit 30. And look, I hear it all the time in the clinic, people say, I don't have time. I think you've got to somehow make time. If that means you've got to get up at 5 o'clock before the kids are up, you've got to do it. And it might be a struggle, but once they are doing that, they feel so much better. And it gives them a sense of control, because this is a time when you've got to focus on what is in your control, not what's out of your control. The more certainty you can create for women going through menopause, the better they feel. Their role in society and even their role as a parent is changing. And, the women who are going through menopause now, the baby boomers and the 45 pluses, they still are in that bra burning era. So a lot of them have had a fairly tough transition. A lot of them have gone back and studied late. Some haven't. The ones that haven't gone and studied or have picked up a career after babies feel quite redundant. They are very aware of this fast-moving world going on around them with IT. A lot of them even struggle to log onto Facebook. So there's a real sense of, I've just been left. I've just been left and the pack's up miles ahead of me. And they do feel a sense of loss, a sense of incompetence, which is not true, of course. Who knows? You might end up showing some of these ladies just how to connect on Facebook, and that might even just be a really cool thing for them, just to bring them up to speed on feeling like they are part of the IT revolution that's going on. Definitely in this country, exposure to chemicals, and by the time someone hits 45, particularly in the last 10, 15 years where a lot of foods have been adulterated with chemicals and additives, it's starting to take its toll. So the liver will break down most of those chemicals and preservatives and additives and colourings, and eventually, the liver was only designed to really manage a normal, homeostatic, active, organic body. So once it starts trying to break down Panadol on a daily basis or even once a week, once you ask it to drink lots of alcohol on top of everything else it's meant to do, to deal with all the additives and chemicals in food, your liver just starts to clog up. And it's really important to have a nice functional liver during this time in your life. Stress is another big thing that seems to be quite obvious in women of this age group, and some of them, and look, this is indicative of any age group, but they'll stress about nothing. And if you're listening to this and going through menopause, I'm not saying that you're making it up, but I think we're stressing about non-essential things, things that really are not life-saving, life-changing, really in the scheme of life worth stressing about. So a lot of, and that is just the way we build our society up, this time thing, got to be there by 3, if we're 5 minutes late we feel stressed. It's really quite crazy stuff when you think about it. And nutritional deficiency. So a lot of our foods, commercially available foods, supermarket foods, are very, very low on the nutritional content that you'd expect to be in that food. And that might be because it was picked 6 months ago and it's been kept in a cold house with nitrogen and other things so it doesn't oxidise, and then we bring it onto the shelf. But nutrient value will still decay even though it's been stored cold. So this is gorgeous. This is the 7 menopause dwarves. Itchy, bitchy, sweaty, bloaty, sleepy, forgetful, and psycho. I love Miss Psycho down the bottom. And these are very classic symptoms that women will start to experience through menopause, and most of it, in fact I'd say all of it's hormone driven. You can make a difference, so that's really good news, and they'll probably be looking to someone like you to help them through this, and you might be the only person who does actually offer them assistance through this time. So it's important that you're quite aware and raise their level of awareness. And one of my big philosophies as a health practitioner and helping people is saying, look, you may not realise, but you do have a lot of options available to you. And sometimes it's a matter of just sitting down and putting your belief systems aside and saying, have you thought about acupuncture? Have you thought about Reiki? Have you thought about psychic healing? Have you thought about nutritionists, naturopaths, masseuses, chiropractors, osteopaths? There's a huge range of good preventative and functional practitioners out there that work very differently to allopathic doctors who just kind of treat a symptom rather than really what's going on and looking at the cause in the woman. So education's critical as well, and even that menopause book might be a good book to lend them or give it to them as a gift. It'll just, some of the dialogue in there just makes them realise they're not on their own, because a lot of women feel quite isolated through this time. And talking about sex, which is a really hot topic through this period in a woman's life, a lot of women just find their sex drives exits. And look, a lot of them, to be honest, after children, if they've had kids, don't have a great sex drive anyway, but it kind of gets back to zero through menopause. So we have to give them hope that that's going to pick up, because they start feeling like a failure in the relationship, because one, they just have no inclination for it, and two, it hurts them when they do go and have intercourse, because things are quite dry. So what is this beautiful time in our life, the celebration called menopause? It's actually the time when we're born, our ovaries have a finite number of eggs, and once they're all hatched and used up, the ovaries have done their job, so they start to close down shop and they shrink. And that's what menopause is about. It's about the ovaries doing their job. It's all done now. No more eggs, no more periods, no more fertility. And the ovaries will shrink. True menopause is considered 12 months since the woman's last period. That's by definition. While you're going through it, it's called perimenopausal. And sometimes that lead up time, so I might see women with some flushes, random flushes, or still having regular periods but getting other symptoms, we'll call that premenopausal. Does it matter the correct terminology? I don't think so. I think it's quite esoteric. I think it's just academic at the end of the day. The thing, though, that a lot of women do want to know is, am I postmenopausal? And postmenopausal is kind of not correct terminology. It's really just, am I menopausal? Yes, you haven't had a period for 12 months, you've gone through menopause. Your ovaries shrink, they become redundant, no more periods, and your hormones can change. Ideally, there's a transitional time where the body's quite reliant on the eggs that are hatched each month for producing progesterone and estrogen. Now, as they start to become less, the eggs aren't as strong towards the end of our fertility days, the body should start to kick in. Sorry, big fat Harley just went past. Our hormones and our other parts of our other organs, such as fat supplies and adrenals, should start producing estrogen on our behalf. And progesterone is also produced in the pregnenolone pathways. And ideally, a bit like a clutch plate, they start to engage and pick up in production. But sometimes that's not seamless, and that's when women experience a bit like the old mate back on the little Sabo boat before, bum in the water, just going, oh my God, I'm hanging on for this change to kick in. Doesn't kick in as quick or as nicely as we often would like. And that can drag out for years. Usual onset of menopause, this is, standard lady, would be 45, and most have been through it by 55. But that's the median range. There are definitely women who start in their 30s, and I've got a few clients who went through menopause by the time they're 40. And there are still some who are having periods well in their 55s up to their 60s, and they don't go through menopause till they're 60. The average time, though, is from start to finish is about 5 years. I would suggest in other countries it's nothing near that long, because their body is more attuned and they're a lot healthier, so they tend to slide through it a lot quicker. Typical scenario. This is probably quite indicative of a lot of women who come to me. Late 40s, they start to get irregular periods. They might shorten up, so instead of having a 28-day cycle, they'll start having a period every 3 weeks. They'll have heavy periods, or it'll start to lighten up. They'll start telling you, at first I thought I had a virus. I had a lady here the other day who said she broke out in this massive sweat one night, got up, started to take her clothes off, and her husband thought she was horny and said, oh great, I'm getting some. And she said, oh no dear, this is the start of menopause. And much to his disgust, he realised that he was also going to be going through menopause with her as well. And that's what ladies tell you. They wake up, sometimes they're dripping in sweat, the sheets will be wet, wringing wet. So they'll flick off the bed clothes, aircon on, the husband's there freezing, kneecaps shaking, and then within 5-10 minutes it's dissipated, and then they're scrambling to put the covers back on again. Does seem to, these flushes are quite unnerving. They're not pleasant, and if any of you have had them listening to this, you'll know exactly what I mean. They come on like a wave, Typically they'll spread from the feet up, and you just get this feeling of overwhelming heat, but sometimes they'll just be from the chest up. A flash is when you get the heat, and some women will go red with it, so that's a flash. A flush is when you actually sweat with it. And they're quite remarkable. I've had ladies who sit there and they'll flush 6 times over the hour, and it'll just come from nowhere. They just get this redness rising up through their chest, through their face, little beads of sweat, and they go, I'm having a flush now. I go, yeah, I can see it. It's quite incredible. Now, flushes can be caused by a variety of things. It can be by high estrogen will cause you to flush, low estrogen will cause you to flush, low progesterone, low testosterone as well. Let's go back to Mary, 48-year-old, who's come to see me with changing periods and hotness at night, and some anxiety started to creep in. Her periods have always been 4 weeks, but they're starting to vary, and that's the key thing. The periods really start to change. Some are 6 weeks apart. Sometimes she gets a show, which is just light. For you boys who don't know this terminology, it's just light spotting. Usually, you can get away with a pad. Doesn't really warrant a tampon, but they're unpredictable and they're changing. That's the key thing. Young Mary wakes up a few times a night in a lather of sweat, and her husband no longer sleeps in the same bed. And that's a common thing too. The women feel quite disconnected because the man will pack up and go and sleep on the couch or the spare room. She's got 2 teenage kids. They're starting to live their own lives. One doesn't even need her driving anymore. She feels like she's their housemaid sometimes, not their mum, because they stop engaging. And I don't know if you know teenagers, but they come home and they just kind of throw their things around. They expect their ironing to be done, their washing to be done, they feed, and then they go and do their study or go off with their mates. And these women, Mary's pretty typical of it, will start to feel just like a housemaid. So the role that was quite fulfilling for them becomes quite unfulfilling. Mary starts to doubt herself and with her friends and herself, her body, and even her husband doesn't seem interested in her. And that's a very typical thing. Guys are wonderful partners when we're on top of things, but as soon as we're not, they really struggle to know how to make us happy, and it's really not their job, according to John Gray, and I do get that. So they retract quite a lot, and the woman feels quite isolated. Mary is very typical of women at this age group who are worrying non-stop, and they worry about things that are just quite, well, to outsiders insignificant, to them quite significant. Oh, Marge, let's just swap that for Mary because it's kind of apt. So yeah, and this is what they feel like, just living in a fridge. So what are the symptoms of menopause? Mary's a typical lady who would come and see me. This is one time, though, where because of the flushes and just all these different symptoms going on, even though they're quite typical, I prefer to do a saliva test, because if you get it wrong, if the woman's low on estrogen and you give her stuff that augments estrogen production, you'll make her, that will be a good mix. But if she's high on estrogen, in my experience, a large percentage of women do have too much estrogen, i.e. estrogen dominant, and you go and give her herbs that actually boost estrogen, it's going to make her twice as worse. So I often will saliva test these ladies to find out exactly what their hormones are doing. Some of the symptoms, though, there are 34 recognised ones, and I do outline them in that menopause book, and if you haven't got the book, then you'll find them on one of my blogs. Just put in the search engine menopause symptoms, and there's 34. They will vary. Some women will only get one, which might be the flushes. Some might not get, some might have 20, some might have all 34, and they're quite random. There'll be itchy skin, feeling like there's spiders climbing up your back, memory loss, increased urination. There's quite a few different body parts that are affected. I have a bit of a low threshold for women in this group. Any symptom during this age, unless it's chest pain or something clearly not related to hormones, I just assume that it's menopausal until proven otherwise. So the classic symptoms are erratic or irregular periods. They'll get the flushes or the flashes, night sweats, mood swings. Dry vagina is very common, which is why sex becomes a bit of an effort. Anxiety, they can get low energy, and you can see why that little menopausal dwarves are quite funny. Itchy skin's very common. Cold hands or feet. They can get racy hearts, bleeding gums. They can be quite irritable. Facial hair goes up. Low sex drive. Aching joints, tingling hands and feet. Allergies, incontinence, headaches, memory loss, weight gain, weak bones, depression, apprehension, so that anxiety creeps in, sleeplessness, breast tenderness, dry eyes and mouth, really common. So you can reach, as I said, any woman in this age group, 45 to 55, if they get any nuffy symptoms, and here's a whole stack of them, it's menopause until proven otherwise. It's a hormone imbalance until proven otherwise. Often dry eyes gets put down to omega-3 deficiency, and they'll end up on flaxseed and in front of an optometrist. Not a bad idea to rule eye stuff out, but it will be hormonal. Hair loss or thinning is very common. Pubic hair will thin out in a lot of cases. They'll have problems concentrating. They can get a little bit more woofy. Bowels can go off, bladder infections, heart disease definitely catches up, and the nails might split. Some other things I do hear about, so I've included the thinning pubic hair there and the armpit hair. The ants crawling on the skin is quite a common one, and that's quite disconcerting. Painful sex definitely. Because the pH is changing in the vagina, usually due to low progesterone, sometimes they can emit a bit of an odour, but that can also be bacteroides or vaginitis, which really GPs aren't very good at picking up. This is one time where I just say get on antibiotics, and there is a specific antibiotic for it, and just what clears it up. But it will come about because of the low progesterone. And they can get metallic taste in the mouth too. Can it get good again? Yes. Oh, look, sorry, I just left that link off there. So I actually try and encourage people and inspire people, even though they're sitting there flushing, feeling exhausted because they haven't slept and have no sex drive. Despite all that, I try and spin it into a positive for them. I say, this is a really good time for you to critique the last 40 to 45 years, because according to statistics, you've got another 40 to 45. What have you liked? What are you going to take forward into the next section of your life? So it is a really good time to go on a little bit of a cruise or a trip to Bali and look back on your life and go, what aspects do I like? Because I'm going to keep them in my life. Who do I like? They can stay. But everything else, it's a perfect time to let it go. It's a really good time for people as well to get a bit of a giddy up on what they want to do in life, because some people haven't. They've put their kids first and the husband first and all these other things first. Now is the time for them to come first. Absolutely. And it's about future planning. Interesting, this is a study that was done down in Sydney in 3 menopause clinics, and CAM stands for Complementary Alternative Medicines. Despite what doctors say, half of the women through this age group have seen a naturopath or someone who deals with complementary medicines. Most of those people were naturopaths, acupuncturists, chiropractors, and most products that were recommended was soy, which, I don't actually go down the isoflavone route. You can do, but I don't. EPO, which is evening primrose oil, and once again, I don't use EPO in this age group at all. It's just not my choice. I find EPO, evening primrose oil, very good for young girls with sore boobs just starting their periods, but I have a lot more, more gun-ho supplements that I tend to draw upon. And 60% of them were using a prescription or an over-the-counter supplement. Isn't that a huge statistic? So, look, this is what I find quite fascinating, is that, as I said, some women around the world do not have any symptoms of menopause, and they just do this beautiful transition, and they'll have a big tribal celebration at the end of it. Unfortunately, here there's not, it's not a celebration. Women drag their butts through it, and they get out the other side, and they might crack a champagne because they've made it through. So let's have a look at the hormone changes, what goes on. FSH is the start of the period, so you've got your cycle here. FSH comes down from the brain, the pituitary gland, down to the ovary, and they take it in turns. So left ovary will fire 1 month, right the next. So FSH comes down to the ovary and knocks on the door. Hey, go in there, grab one of those eggs off the shelf, and let's develop it. So that's FSH's role. As the ovaries become less responsive during time and over time, and as the egg supply start to drop off, or the ovary master might be in there looking for an egg and there might not be any, so there's no response, so that will feed back up to the brain, hey, no response, no egg's been hatched. So the brain will send down more FSH. So follicle stimulating hormone, or FSH, will go up during menopause, and that can be picked up quite nicely on blood tests. And it's, if you're a little bit ambivalent, not too sure, that is one you can request off your doctor, and it's quite accurate on blood. Luteinizing hormone comes down after FSH from the brain to the ovary, and it looks at the little egg and says, come on, it's a bit like baker's yeast, and makes it nice and fit and robust. Now, estrogen is made typically by lots of parts of the body, but when you're fertile, so FSH go up and go down, LH goes up and goes down, and then about 14 days after the FSH and luteinizing hormone have got that egg ready for hatching, it pops out. We call that time ovulation, And at that point, there is an egg floating around. And the egg makes bits of estrogen and bits of progesterone. And the reason it does that is estrogen gets the body to ready to fall pregnant, and so does progesterone. Once the eggs start not being as strong, or you're not actually popping out eggs every month, estrogen, interestingly, can drop off quite remarkably. And that's what the allopathic Western doctors think all the time. No eggs. All the flushes, all the symptoms are due to low estrogen. Therefore, they often will give an estrogen replacement or HRT, hormone replacement. And for some women, it's diabolical because they actually could have high estrogen, which is why I like to check it on saliva. Because giving a woman who's high in estrogen more estrogen makes her psychotic. It makes her put on weight. It makes her moods go crazy, her memory goes, and it's really very depressing. Progesterone typically will drop. I can't say I've seen many women through menopause with good progesterone levels or even high progesterone levels. Testosterone can go up, but typically during this time, and I'm not too sure why, I think because the adrenal glands start making a bit of estrogen, testosterone often goes down. So let's look at the symptoms of high estrogen and low estrogen. High estrogen levels potentially will lead to these reproductive cancers, so breast cancer, cervical cancer, ovarian cancer, and that's because the tissue found in those reproductive tissue responds to estrogen. That's the whole role of estrogen, is to stimulate them. So if you've got extra estrogen, you'll get extra stimulation. Therefore, there's more chance of mutation. Couple that with low vitamin D, which plays a role in picking up mutated cells, then off will go a few little mutated cells leading to cancer. Infertility is caused by high estrogen, low sex drive, endometriosis and fibroids, PMS, mood changes. This one, fluid retention, weight gain, cellulite, headaches, migraines, anxiety and depression. And during this time, high estrogen can cause flushes. Low estrogen, low levels through menopause dries everything up. So a lot of ladies will go and get an estrogen cream from their doctor, but a progesterone cream will probably do a similar thing. Or just managing your levels from inside out and getting your body balanced is the best way to go. While that's happening though, I do suggest to ladies to use water-based lubricants. High levels of progesterone, flushing or flashing can occur in both arms. High levels of estrogen will cause flushing, as will low levels. So let's look at progesterone. High levels of progesterone, really not that common, but it will happen if you get some bioidentical creams, wild yam cream or internal supplements, and HRT will push your progesterone up. So it can occur, but it's usually an external cause that's doing it. Low levels of progesterone, extremely common. Dry skin, that's all around the body. Progesterone is very calming, so it can, when you're low on it, you can be quite anxious. And you can be quite flat with your moods. So once again, think of women on the other side, the last trimester of pregnancy. Their progesterone's really high, and they feel awesome and they look great. Take that away and they look quite dishevelled, quite drained, quite ashen in the face, and that will be low progesterone. Short, clotty periods through menopause, often you'll find they'll have low progesterone. So testosterone, this is just a cover of the sex hormone clip. High testosterone, they can get quite irritable and ragey. They can get pimples, deep voice, whiskers. So any facial hair that develops through menopause, and maybe testosterone is going up, and possibly they're low on zinc. They might get thinning of their hair and their hairline on the scalp. They might have good muscle definition, or they might struggle to gain muscle. And loss of compassion. Now, low testosterone, I find, is more common in menopause than high. And I'm not too sure if it's because we're all pretty burnt out by the time we hit 45 or what's going on. But it also is attributed for low sex drive, low energy, and it's a real good feel-good hormone. So some drops in mood and mood changes are because testosterone's dropped off. And women who are working out, eating really well and still fail to gain muscle and have tuck-shop arms possibly are low on testosterone, and they'll complain of low energy as well. They'll just say, oh, I just feel fatigued, but they'll push themselves. You'll be training them going, why are they not, muscling up here and losing weight? And it's because their testosterone's too low. So we've got to get that up first. So how can we measure hormones for these ladies? Look, most doctors will, a lot don't use saliva because it's out of pocket in this country, but it is the way that World Health Organization recommends is the only way to measure sex hormones, so I do that methodology, but it is expensive. It's about $200 out of pocket plus. Blood's not as accurate. Blood results, because of the way the hormones sit in the blood and it's thrown away, give quite arbitrary and not very meaningful results. You can go on symptoms. So those 34 symptoms I said before, if they've got 3 or 4 of those, then we know that you can categorise them according to these. So if they've got mood changes, fluid retention, weight gain, cellulite, and they're suffering from anxiety and flushes, chances are they've got high estrogen or low progesterone. So I'll often go off symptomatology. The more you're doing this, and I'm not suggesting any of you tout that you're hormone experts without some more formal qualification. Hopefully I'll have a certificate for you guys to do one day. But you can generally, you get a really good feel of what's going on with your patients. But as I said, this is one age group where I don't like to wing it too much. I do like to have the saliva test to back it up. Because if you get it wrong, you will spiral these women down. Trial and error. They might not like knowing that sometimes they are in your practice. These are the pros and cons of blood. It is cheaper, it's covered by Medicare, but it does involve a needle, which some women get quite anxious about. It is very inaccurate. Saliva, look, it does cost more, but it gives really good information. There's no prick involved. They do it from home, and it gives you really meaningful information. That's just a big thing I have noticed in practicing with ladies with menopause. Flushing is often confused and assumed to be low estrogen, and really it's not the case a lot of the time. So how can we help women going through menopause? I think it's the perfect time to install in women that they have to be doing everything really well in their life, and it's not just for menopause, it's for the rest of their life. Menopause is just a good pain stimulus, like a needle in your bum, to actually get off and do something about it. But if we can make it fun and educate them along the way, why eating really good is not just good for balancing your hormones, but good for heart health, preventing stroke, diabetes, cancer, then wow, what an opportunity to make these people really healthy. It's fantastic. So all the things I talk about in optimal nutrition, the big things I love are, where possible, eating organic, going to markets or growing your own, balancing with nice hormone-free meats, lots of nuts and seeds, really good nuts and seeds, not cashews and peanuts, but almonds, macadamias, pecans, walnuts, addressing any, sort of try and simplify life, so getting rid of refined sugar, getting rid of anything that comes in a packet. So inspiring women to cook again, or guys to cook for them, so it goes straight from the farm to the plate or straight from the garden to the plate. None of this into a factory, extracting this, crushing down that, just as pure as possible. It's the best way, and it's how we were designed to eat. It's a really good time too to inspire people that exercise is not a bad word, that it should be part of your everyday life. And the more you move, particularly through this time, the less aches and pains you get, the less arthritis you get, the more energy you have. So inspiring them through different types of exercise is quite critical. Saying no to stress, helping them with stress management, which I cover quite a lot in the adrenal fatigue recording. And friendships is an interesting thing. Now, some friendships, I just believe some are, what's the saying? A season, a lifetime. So friends come into our life, and people do, for a reason. So they've got something to teach us, then they're gone again. They're there for a season, so it might just be a summer fling, or it might just be, you meet someone down at Nippers while the kids are doing Nippers, you never really connect with them again, that's fine. Or some people come into your life and they're there for life. I think discerning what people are for and not feeling that everyone's got to be in your life for a lifetime is quite important. It doesn't mean you're mean, it just means you're quite smart, because otherwise you try and foster and keep these relationships alive that have served their time. And it's a really good releasing time just to take a deep breath and just say, I'll let go of this friendship now, and it's all fine. You don't actually have to have the conversation, you just lose contact. Hobbies. So a lot of people at this point find that they might have been working or had kids as the main focus. Suddenly they've got a couple of hours a day that need filling up with good stuff that takes them towards their higher purpose. They might get involved with charities, they might start scrapbooking again, they might pick up the knitting needles again. Hobbies are really important, and I spend a lot of time helping women design their most perfect day. So for some women that means sleeping until 7, having a juice, going for a walk in the sun, coming home, reading the paper, going to the shops, getting some food. I love the idea of going to the village. Going into the village, getting fresh meat and veggies, making up a nice big lunch for that day, sharing it with other people, doing some more activities in the afternoon and sliding into home base at night. It's also a good time to address any relationship issues because people often will disconnect through their 30s and 40s just because they become parents and just become not strangers in the night, but their roles change quite a lot. If there are no children involved, it's still a good time to reconnect and reunite with the partner. This one here, I always say to women, this is the time to sort your legals out. There's a big push at the moment, and I think it's a good idea for women in this age group to actually make sure they've got a handle of what a budget's about. Many women find that when their partner dies, that they've got no idea how much money they do or don't have, or even how to write a cheque. So they don't have to go to finance school to learn this stuff, but it's good to put it onto the table and say, do you know what? They might look at you and go, oh my God, I know nothing about that. It's like, well, go and do a little one-day course or do something online or just open up your awareness. I think it's a good time also to get a will. If people haven't got a will, power of attorney and advanced healthcare directive you can leave till people are a bit later in life. But legals are quite important, and it's something we don't do very well in this country. Now, this is the esoteric, ethereal stuff. So I've talked about how to manage menopause without seeing a practitioner, but look, I use supplements. I use a lot of dietary advice. I really try and inspire people to feed themselves nourishment and hormone balancing through great nutrition. I believe lifestyle is a huge percentage of how they feel as well. So those two things alone are amazingly powerful. Get them right, and menopause is a dream. These are icing on the cake. It's a great opportunity to help them sort this stuff out so they can lead this amazing life which they're entitled to. So in part of doing that, I do a lot of life coaching, for want of a better word, around the values. Are you living true to your values? Why haven't you been? Let's make the next half of your life all about you putting yourself first, being authentic to your values. Then you'll never have stress again. Life and happiness go up remarkably. What connections do you have? What ones do we need to let go of? What makes you happy? I regularly have started writing on people's script pads because I'll write up a script. Have fun, 30 minutes a day. And, you know, sometimes sometimes regularly I say to people, I want you to have fun. And they look back at me and go, that's a novel concept. How do I have fun again? And they actually have not had fun for so long, or they forget what fun is, or that feeling of fun. So sometimes I will give them a short-acting fun pill just so they can experience for 4 weeks what fun is all about and get connected to the earth and planet and friends again. And then I say, right, we're going to put in the second tiers, which is the stuff you can do yourself that doesn't come in a pill. So now you've had an experience of what it feels like to have fun and connection. Let's try and do that through you just being committed to lifestyle stuff, your hobbies, doing what you love, getting out and about and making it happen for yourself. They also need support crew and permission to move on and let go of a lot of stuff in order to get more good stuff. Happy menopause, it doesn't have to be a tumultuous time. It can be quite cool. Any more help, and if I can help you any other way, helping ladies through this time, please contact me or put it on the Facebook page. Look, on the Gold Coast, the council run these active and healthy programs. I'm talking about menopause around those. Other cities probably have similar things that people can tap into so they don't feel like they're isolated. So open up doors and options for them. Sorry, just close your eyes while I flick back, because I just want to flick back. I should have had this here. Not her. I've gone past the menopause dwarves. These ones. Because I think if we can help women just manage these a lot better, then they end up being these beautiful women like the one at the end. But while they're in this stage, it's really disconcerting. So that's our role, to help them with this, help them lean up, get rid of the bloating, sleep better, and not experience this stuff. Hope that was helpful. As I said, put any questions, any hiccups or that you're encountering with clients, pop it up on the Facebook, the Health Queen Professional site. Thanks for that.